Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we're going to be covering 10 helpful intermediate tips for Go Battle League. This is not going to cover very many of the basics. If you want to take a look at the basics, I recommend that you check out Zionic's team building guide. Really great, simple strategy on how you can build the appropriate team for Go Battle League. Or I recommend FP Sticks, PvP 101, or Mathematicians slide deck, where he covers a lot of the basics of PvP. And I'm going to repeat some of them, but I'm mostly going to be focused on some of the little bit more advanced topics that I think you really should be thinking about as you go about your matches. Some of these you might know. The first one is safe switches. So when you think about building and constructing your team, you want to think about safe switches. But it's not just about having Pokemon that have like really good matchups. Like some of them would be like Azumarill, for example, is a pretty safe switch. Even Registeel can be a pretty safe switch because it's going to get a shield if it has a big enough energy advantage. But some other conventional Pokemon or other Pokemon that you might consider when looking at a safe switch, you want to go to PvPoke.com. I actually think he has a section of this, but I haven't actually tried it out yet. So we can take a look at Haunter, for example. We see Haunter, a really great Pokemon. It's been covered by a lot of the YouTubers, including myself. When we take a look at it in the One Shield matchup against the overall meta, we see it picks up 331 wins. But when we go to when we bring it to 24, which means 24 energy instead of starting at 0, we'll see that it actually picks up 417 wins. And you want to take a look at some of the Pokemon that are necessarily relevant in the meta. So like Altaria, okay, you pick it up. Skarmory, you pick it up. Obviously, bait dependent. Azumarill, you can pick it up. Registeel. Obviously, some Pokemon are going to be able to counter it, but like Wishcash. Wishcash is a Pokemon that typically is going to be able to counter Haunter. But if you're able to land the Shadow Punch bait, you can actually flip the matchup. And because Haunter's sky high attack stat, you're able to win the CMP tie. So that's what are some of the things I look for when I talk about safe switches. What are some Pokemon that with an energy advantage can overcome some of its matchup? Obviously, Haunter can still get walled. Can get walled by Umbreon. Can get walled by other dark types. But it's able to put on a lot of pressure to a lot of the typical meta that you might see. So those are some things that you want to look at when you're constructing your team. Like if this Pokemon switches into something that typically counters my Pokemon, say you lead Registeel and they have a Defense Deoxys, coming in with Haunter, not going to take a lot of damage from those counters because we'll be able to triple resist those counters, but going to be able to apply a lot of pressure. So you want to think about those. And those are some things in how you can leverage PvPoke. And talking about an energy advantage is one thing that a lot of advanced players really think about. Tip number 2 is when to energy farm down. So one of my good friends, Jay Formakis, definitely check him out on YouTube, posting a lot of really great videos with Scrublord. He calls it J farming, which is a really great play on his name. And I'm going to show you a video where I talk about like farming down the Pokemon is critical to actually winning the match. So if we go ahead and we see this next Pokemon, I know he has a Seismitoad in the back, which I know is going to be very bad for me, and I need to be able to take out this Altaria. So instead of hitting the discharge there, I actually just go for another Volt Switch and commit to taking down the Pokemon, because I know this Bug Buzz is going to do a lot of damage, and I need to be able to apply that damage to the Seismitoad to have any chance to win. I'm not going to be able to do a lot of damage with Discharge, and then you're going to see something else where I end up sacking my Wishcash. But without committing to the energy farm, this Seismitoad likely would have outpaced me and would have won the match. So I end up winning the rest of this match. So you can see there, I'm going to land the Discharge. But pretty important. You have to know at what point in time do you need to farm down, because they're not going to get off another charge move, because you need the energy on the next Pokemon to win the match. So that's my tip number 2. Know when to energy farm down your Pokemon. Know when you need the energy to win that match. I know that Discharge is not going to do a lot Volt Switch is not going to do enough. I need to land the neutral Bug Buzz to beat the Seismitoad in the back. And there's lots of good guides on how to farm appropriately. And number 3 is how to overcharge against your opponent. You can overcharge for a number of different reasons. One, you can overcharge, and Wild Season Boys says this very, very well, you overcharge to throw off your opponent. So a lot of times people get very good at counting. They know that, 5 bubbles gets to an Ice Beam. 7 bubbles gets you to a Hydro Pump. But if you overcharge, instead of firing off the Ice Beam right away on a Pokemon like Skarmory, for example, or another Pokemon like a Swampert, for example, you could overcharge and do 7 bubbles, do 6 bubbles instead of 5, then fire it off. And then they're going to count, especially really advanced players, are going to count how many bubbles to the next charge move. Because it's very difficult to keep track of the total number of bubbles that occurred in a match, especially as they're switching and doing all that stuff. So overcharging will allow you to throw off your opponent. But I'm going to go ahead and play a video from some battles that I did last night. Talking about overcharging. Overcharging sometimes is necessary to end up winning this match. So my Skarmory is going to get KO'd, and I switch out. I switch to my Wishcash comes out. He superpowers, and I know he has a Pokemon in the back. So instead of firing off the Mud Bomb right away, I basically go up into the limit until this Melmetal has another charge move ready, and fire off the Mud Bomb, KO the Melmetal, and this allows me to win the race, or basically be able to get to a Mud Bomb before being fainted down by wing attacks. And you can see how little health. Well, I probably could take like 2 more wing attacks, but you can see like how important it is to be able to overcharge on some moves, because you need the energy for the next Pokemon. And in some instances, and when you want to trick your opponent and be able to fire off another charge move sooner than they think. So like oftentimes I'll do against the defense Deoxys, I'll build up to 2 Mud Bombs, and I'll throw one off right before they get to a charge move, and they're gonna shield because they think that they need to get off this Rock Slide, or they need to get off this Psycho Boost, and then I'll throw another one right away to be able to burn the shield and KO their Pokemon. And the next tip is bank a charge move before switching. In this, I want to say these tips, like, you don't always apply, but you got to think about like what is your win condition in some matchups, and especially it's really valuable to hold energy in a charge move on a Pokemon that has a really high attack stat, like Haunter, or in this case, it's going to be Galvantula. So we're going to take a look at this matchup. Hopefully I sped it up, because I think I sped up the other ones. So obviously this is a terrible situation for me. I have Galvantula as my only counter to Togekiss. And my other Pokemon is Meganium, which is not going to do a lot of damage. And Altaria is not going to do a lot of damage either. So I'm going to land this Bug Buzz. And know when people don't like to shield some Pokemon. People really don't like to shield Hypno or Umbreon, so going for that nuke was the way to go, because I was going to be able to do a lot of damage and then apply some shield pressure to this Umbreon. So I'm going to look to land this Discharge. So you're going to see this Discharge coming through. I missed a bubble. It's fine. And then he's going to shield anyways. And then what I'm going to do, you're going to see very carefully, I'm going to shield, and I know my only chance to win is to land this Discharge on Togekiss. So you're going to see I'm going to start firing off these things, and then I'm going to immediately switch and look to tank this foul play. I also know that Altaria is a beast and is going to be able to get to a Sky Attack, so I'm going to be able to either take out the Togekiss with the Sky Attack, or I'm going to be able to land this Discharge. So we're going at it, and then I just barely get to it. I also know that Galvantula has a higher attack stat than Togekiss. So I'm going to be able to land this. So let's see if he decides to farm down. Farming down makes sense until you realize that I have Galvantula, and I'm going to win CMP because I have the higher attack. And that was basically my win condition. Like, if I would have ended up at at Meganium, I would have took so many charm damage, and I was not going to be able to win this next match. I also could have waited a little bit longer so I could switch out sooner and not take so much damage, but it is what it is. So I end up winning this match, and I'm just going to fast forward it a little bit. And you're going to see me land this Frenzy Plant to win this next match. So my next tip is farm down to win. This is very important. You got to recognize what your win condition is, and sometimes firing off the charge move is not the right way. So this is from my Rose Cup, so obviously the Pokemon are a little bit different. But there are some instances if you throw the charge move, you're not going to be able to do a fast move during that turn. And especially for some moves that are longer, like Confusion, like Volt Switch, or like Charm, or even Sky Attack or Bubble, doing that charge move that gets shielded, it only does 1 HP, as opposed to doing the fast move can be the difference between winning and losing. So I'm just going to forward this match a little bit. I guess I'm taking a little while to pick, and this is against Swaggeron, my very good friend. Definitely check him out. Really great content creator. And looks like we are... Okay, so I end up in a very poor lead. Grand Ball versus... Grand Ball versus Probopass. So I'm going to look to land this foul play. And you're going to see near then, I need to identify my win condition. So I go for the foul play. He decides to not shield. And what did I do here? I think I decided to shield. No, I decided not to shield as well. This Rock Slide's going to hurt. It's quite alright. And then here comes Sableye, looking to farm down. I also know, like in this case, I have a higher attack stat. Well, I'm guessing I do because my CP is a lot higher than Swaggeron's Shiny Sableye. And he just ends up taking it, and that's totally fine. And I'm looking at this situation. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be pretty bad. Like there's like not a lot any undercharges, which is totally fine. And I go into Grand. Do I go? Maybe I don't. Yeah, I think I go into Grand Ball. I really should have sped this up. I thought I edited these clips, but anyways, I'm gonna be able to take it out with these charms. He's not gonna be able to get off a foul play, and then here comes. Probopass, and I'm looking to time the charge move. Anyways, they're going to do Magna Bomb anyways, so... And basically, I'm in this situation where this Probopass has a little bit of health, and I know that in the back of my mind, I'm keeping track of this Probopass. I'm like, okay, it has a little bit of health. Here comes Gligar with Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter is going to be resisted by Grand Ball. These Night Slashes are going to be resisted. I just have to be careful of the Earthquake. And I'm going to look at it, and I really decide, and I don't get this off, and I really think about this. I'm like, how do I play this out? And I decide my best course of action. I know it's crazy. If I would have shielded that Earthquake, it would have been amazing. But my best course of action is to farm down. So I decide to shield, and even though this Night Slash would be resisted, I actually probably could have saved it, but that's quite alright. I was afraid of getting faded down by Spark because Grand Ball's so squishy, and I realized that he has 2 shields. There's no point in me firing off these charge moves. There's no way I'm getting off 3 charge moves with Charm versus this Probopass. Like, there's just no way. So I'm going to commit to fainting down, and you'll see, like, if I didn't shield that Night Slash, it probably would have been pretty close, and then I end up fainting my opponent with 2 shields up. So you got to know at what point in time, am I able to get to more than 1 charge move? Do I outpace the other my opponent's Pokemon, or am I gonna end up doing a charge move and then my opponent's gonna have a little bit of health left, and I'm not gonna be able to get to the 2nd charge move, or the 3rd charge move, or the 4th charge move? However you need to do. So you need to think about at what point do you have to farm down, commit to the farm down, or do you win by actual charge move? So that's my tip number 5. And at number 6 is, we talk about sack switching all the time. Sack switching is so important. And this is one of the ways that you can set up a late game sack switch. And this is why it's very important to be very aggressive in your switches. So I am not going to shield. Despite me having energy, I'm like, this Skarmory is going to be way more valuable to me as a sack switch, so I know I'm going to survive this. And then I guess I know I survive this and get off another Sky Attack, and then I'm setting up the sack switch. I'm not going to stay in because like switch advantage is not as important, right? Like I'm going to face the last Pokemon with my last Pokemon regardless, right? There's not really much benefit in this getting farmed down by Skarmory. So I switch out, I be aggressive, and I'm gonna look to throw off my opponent, look to make my opponent to make a decision. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna stay in? You're gonna switch your last Pokemon? Are you gonna fire off a charge move? They fired off Superpower in that instance. And here comes Defense Deoxys. In this case, like I know my only win condition is to. This is another tip. Identify your win condition. I know my only win condition is to land this Bug Buzz, and I do. That's amazing because now I'm going to be able to Volt Switch down. And a lot of times people don't know that the second move is going to be Energy Ball, which is very good for Mud Boys that would do okay against Galvantula, do pretty well against Galvantula. So I know I need to land 2 discharges, and I know this Rock Slide is going to deal super effective damage. I know they just fired off a Superpower as well, so I need to be very careful. So I see the clock, I see it's coming up. I'm going to fire off a Volt Switch, and I'm going to fire off one more, and then I'm going to set up the sack switch, and then let Skarmory take the damage. But really, that would have happened if I didn't aggressively switch out when this Skarmory had basically 1 HP. And, you know, many of my opponents have done this to me, and I've done this to many of my opponents. But the key to this is setting it up. Knowing when to switch, forcing yourself. Like, this is not like the beginning of the match where, you know, switching out will give you up switch advantage. You're going to face the last Pokemon anyways. Go in with an energy advantage. And this, again, this doesn't, all these things I'm saying don't always apply, but these are things that you need to take into consideration in order to help you win a lot of Go Battle League matches. And a lot of the high-level matchups that I've had have come down to be able to successfully sack switch against your opponent. And at number 7, calculate if you can tank the charge move. You can calculate it in a number of different ways. So if we take a look at PV Poke, so you have to know the IVs of your Pokemon. So I know my Skarmory. I have a rank 1 Skarmory. It's absolutely amazing. And one of the matchups is very common that's positive for the other opponent is going to be Swampert. So when we go into this matchup normally, I see that I barely lose the 1 shield matchup. But if I turn it to rank 1, which is what I have, and again, you can apply this to your Pokemon, I know I can survive. I know I can survive 2 Hydro Cannons. So like if we play it out like this, I know I can survive the 2 Hydro Cannons, and I know I'm gonna well, actually no, I don't want CMP, but I know that I'm gonna be able to get off the Sky Attack right before this Swampert is able to get to the 3rd one. And they might not even get to the 3rd one. If you're able to sneak a Sky Attack in their Hydro Cannon, then that's going to allow you to win the matchup more effectively. But let's go ahead and see an example of this. Again, this is about knowing your Pokemon, knowing your matchups, and trying to figure out like how can you flip and turn some unconventional matchups. Maybe you have a really high attack Pokemon. Maybe you're a really bulky one. And really think about what are instances that you can come away with an advantage in the lead. That might be a shield advantage. That might be switch advantage. That might be energy advantage. Whatever it is. So again, I know my Skarmory can tank 2 Hydro Cannons from virtually any Swampert. Obviously, if they have a really high attack one, then probably not. But it's very unlikely that they have a very high attack one. So they go for the Hydro Cannon. And I see, based off that, okay, all the Mud Shots that led to it, which is going to be 5 Mud Shots in a Hydro Cannon, doesn't KO me. The next one's going to be 4 Mud Shots in a Hydro Cannon, which is going to be 1 less. So for sure, I'm going to survive. So I go for it. And I think about it like if I shield, then I eventually could have fainted down, but likely they would have another Pokemon come in and just farm me down, and I'm not going to be able to do very much. So I know I can survive. I am confident I can get to the Sky Attack and be confident in your Pokemon and be able to get off that charge move. So I get off this charge move and land an excellent on it. And as the Sims calculate, I actually tried to switch out to Meganium and fainted down, and then set up that Skarmory for a sack switch later, but that's all right. It's actually probably better that he give up switch advantage. So I think, yep, I think this is the last clip I have for this. So my next two tips are going to be not with some videos, but again, calculate if you can tank the charge move. Understand your analysis, especially in the lead scenario. You should know in this lead scenario, can my Pokemon take this charge move? And will that allow me to come out with an advantage? In this case, the shield advantage. Especially the shield advantage is really important when you have when shield are down. Like when you have a 1-0 shield disadvantage, matchups completely flip. Like for example, like Wishcash Venusaur. Wishcash beats Venusaur down to shield because it can get to a Blizzard and KO it. I'm sure there's a number of other matchups that change when you come away with an energy advantage, and losing the lead is not that bad when your opponent has 0 shield, as long as you have a Pokemon that has like some coverage. So like, for example, Skarmory versus Registeel. Registeel can beat a Skarmory even if the Skarmory has a 2 shield advantage, considering if it baits. So at number 8, I know this is difficult, and sometimes I fall for this too, is don't get tilted. Like, you can be emotional and passionate, and I love battling too, and when you're so close or you encounter some lag, you feel so frustrated. But the thing is, like, that frustration, that madness that you have in your mind is not going to help you win the next match. You got to stay calm, stay collective, take a breather before you go to the next match. Stay focused. Remember the previous 7 tips and all the beginner tips that you've done today and all the battles you've done today, and use that to help you win the next match. Just don't get too upset, because madness leads to blindness, and you can't win very many matches if you're not seeing what's in front of you. And at number 9 is record and rewatch your matches. This is one of my biggest ways that I improve. Is I constantly rewatch my matches, because I'm shoutcasting them, posting them on YouTube. And even if you don't post them on YouTube, or if you want to post them on YouTube just so you're forced to rewatch them and talk about them, then that's a great way of doing it as well. But it's important that you record all your matches. Look back and think about, what was the turning point? Should I have shielded here? Should I have switched here? Should I have been more aggressive? Do I need to be faster reacting against my opponent? What kind of lines are they bringing? And use that to help yourself get better. Recording your match and rewatching them are going to completely change you as a battler. And at number 10, have fun. I think that's by far one of the most important things. Like, if you're not having fun, you're not going to put the time and effort to get better. And whether or not you're on a big losing streak or on a big winning streak, just try to enjoy it. Try to enjoy the battles. If your opponent does an amazing sack switch at the end, you're like, oh, I could have won if I blah, blah, blah. Just applaud your opponent and say, amazing play, and I can't wait to battle that person again and move on to the next one, and just really enjoy it. We play this game to have fun, and it might be competitive at times, but ultimately you're gonna get the most of it when you really enjoy it. So those are my 10 intermediate tips to help you prepare for Season 1 of Go Battle League. I'm going to leave it there. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.